If you have a rural post office, it's closing because you don't matter to them. If you receive door-to-door delivery, that's going away because they don't care about that either.
It's like Christmas every day. So why is it that with all these companies making money, Canada Post is the only one that can't do it?
14,000 employees just within CUP-W are going to retire over the next 5 years. So as we make changes, this isn't about just reducing it, but it is saying, look, when we move to community mailboxes, it takes fewer to deliver to a community mailbox than deliver to the door.
Let's just blow up this shit and make it better for us. We'll make some money along the way. That's why I do this job. That's why I'm putting up with all this garbage, is because once I get out there and once I see Shireen and Helen and Noel and Jessica, all those people, that's why we do it.
The Silver Bullet Podcast with your host, letter carrier, and shop steward, Pirate Jim.
My daddy was a miner, and I'm a miner's son. And I'll stick with the Union till every battle's won. Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
With gratitude, mutual respect, and reciprocity, we acknowledge the ancestral home, culture, and oral teachings of the Treaty 7 signatories, which includes the Siksika Nation, Piikani Nation, Kaana Nation, the Ayithka Stony Nakota Nation, consisting of the Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Good Stony bands, and the people of the Tsuut'ina Nation. We also recognize the Métis people of Alberta Region 3, who call Treaty 7 their home. We respect all people who share, celebrate, and care for the Treaty 7 territory of Southern Alberta, and we honor the original caretakers of the land.
All right. Aloha kako. Welcome to the Silver Bullet Podcast live. And this is the first time I'm doing this. And with all of the different windows and such without proper equipment. So bear with me. So hopefully we're going to have a bit of a live show here. And if it's not going live right now, well, I guess I'll record some stuff. I mean, edit stuff for later, but that's how it goes. So as you may know, today is, I would call it day 1.5 of our restarted strike. I really don't want to have to say today's day 2 of the restarted strike. So I'm trying to figure out if we start, like yesterday being day 33, because we went 32 days and then went back to work, or do we count all the days since we've been back at work and add it to the 32 days? So 9 months. So this would, I guess maybe just to save math, how about we just start over? Or actually, no, let's say this is day 33. How about that? Can we agree to that? I don't know. Maybe it doesn't matter. Anyway, on today's show, we're going to basically breaking down the bullshit again because, well, we're going to listen to the minister give his little statement yesterday so we can get a good glimpse of that one. And then, well, CBC went at it again, just like they did last time. And, well, you'll get to see for yourself, but they don't talk about the things that can fix what's going on. Instead, they perpetuate the garbage and the BS and the propaganda in the Kaplan report from the boss. It's like they don't even bother to research what we're talking about. And of course, it always also goes to the money, right? Because it's always about money. Anyway, before I get going too far, let's go and play. There we go. Let's play the announcement from the minister. And I sure hope it works. So hopefully you can see this. And we'll give it a little play.
Go ahead, Minister. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. And just so we're clear, I have remarks entirely in French to begin with, and then entirely in English. So they're both the same, but I'll start with the French remarks and then go to the English remarks. Alors, merci d'être là.
Thank you for being here today. A few months ago, Canadians elected our government with a clear mandate to reduce our operational expenses to ensure the viability of our essential services. We were asked to act with determination and not postpone difficult but necessary decisions for the benefit of the country. That's exactly what we're doing today by announcing concrete measures to stabilize the financial situation of Canada Post. Because Canada Post is a vital national institution, it's the older than the country itself that has contributed to build it. For 158 years, postal workers have served Canadians in good weather, bad weather, in the villages, rural and urban areas, in rural and indigenous communities. Canada Post is an institution that deserves to be saved. And today, let's be clear, it's an institution that needs to be saved. It's an institution that needs to be saved because since 2018, it has accumulated losses of more than $5 billion because only in 2024, the company declared about $1.3 billion in operational losses that needed an infusion of $1.4 billion this year to prevent the company from becoming insolvent. Now, in the second quarter of 2025, the company has lost $407 million, and this is the worst quarter in its history. And today, Canada Post is losing about $10 million every day. In summary, Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. So now, how did we get to this point? Times have changed. 20 years ago, Canada Post was delivering 5.5 billion letters per year. Today, it's 2 billion. During this time, the number of residents is continuing increasing. And the result is that there's more mails going to more addresses. The costs have remained the same.
Just realized I put my mic on mute. So I just want to stop here for a sec because how did we get here? This comes up in the report. And if you've seen some of my other breaking down the bullshit from the commission, I think we got to this part in the last couple of episodes. But once again, it's all focused on the information from Canada Post, not expanding past that and trying to think what else could be the problem. But it's this narrative of everything's dropping, the parcel business, da-da-da-da-da. And just think about this for a second. Online sales is going crazy still, right? All the other businesses, there's new ones being created, little courier companies every minute because there's so many parcels. Everybody's so busy. UPS is busy. The perlator guy is busy. Everyone's going, don't go on strike because we can't. It's like Christmas every day. So why is it that with all these companies making money, Canada Post is the only one that can't do it? Why is that? They don't mention in here that the boss has been sending emails to customers since long before, well, March of 2024, telling people to be warning them to go and find other methods of transporting your goods because we might be going on strike. The workers might be going on strike in July. And then it began with the narrative separating the union from the workers and from the boss, right? So without me getting too out, opening the can of worms, they've been taking the business and deviating it away by fear-mongering you, the public, into thinking we're going on strike. So we finally had to, but that's a whole other thing. So they don't talk about that. He doesn't talk about, well, why has our market share dropped? Like, what other companies, what would they do when all of a sudden sales drop? They do marketing, right? And we know they have enough of a budget for marketing because what they do is they spend it on the media, their PR department, to demonize the workers, to then put into effect this plan that's been in the works for decades to privatize our public service and to make you believe that we're going to take away, well, anyway, they need to get more business, right? That's one thing. They let the sales drop. And since we've been back to work, since January, what have they done to increase sales this last 9 months? They haven't. They've spent their money demonizing the workers, pushing and pushing and pushing off everything, stalling and stalling and stalling, allowing the commission to take place, and get someone who is obviously biased to it. Like, Mr. Lightbound, you haven't even listened to anything we said. My brothers and sisters 2 weeks ago went to the office of the MP of Calgary Calgary, yeah. And we actually told him everything that we need to happen. That if this happens, if what the boss wants to happen, the rural post offices will close. And guess what? We're having a mandate review without public input. I mean, there's supposed to be a mandate review coming that's supposed to have a whole bunch of like input. And I really, like, this gentleman has gone and just gotten rid of that whole process. It just doesn't seem like this can happen. One guy can decide the future of our public service. Anyway, that's how we got here. We got here through a mix of incompetence and waste. If you were to come do my job for one day, you'll see all the waste happening in all the processes that we have to do. Now it's being called health and safety, a lot of stuff that we do that doesn't get, it is such a can of worms, and it's not just as simple as letter mail dropping. Keep clicking on the wrong things.
Canadians are receiving more parcels, something that could have saved the company. But now Canada Post has lost ground. In 2019, the company was delivering 62%. Now it's 24%, a spectacular loss in 6 years alone, while the private competitors have gained ground with rapid services, more flexible and more competitive services. To these two trends, there's government restrictions imposed over the years and tight relations between the corporation and the union that has undermined the corporation's capacity to adapt. At the end of all that, the situation is clear. Canada Post is insolvent, is providing essential services throughout the country, particularly in rural, remote, and indigenous communities. Canadians are attached to this corporation, but the solution cannot be to continuously infuse more money year after year. We need to act, and we need to start the transformation of Canada Post.
You see, we need to act. Well, what's the first thing? Okay, I use this analogy a lot, especially when I'm at work and customers come up and I chat to them about what's going on. So I like to use this analogy. Imagine you own a McDonald's and a Wendy's, right? You decide that your McDonald's restaurant is no longer going to sell cheeseburgers. You'll sell everything else but the cheeseburgers. Maybe for now. We'll see. You own the Wendy's across the street. Well, Wendy's sells cheeseburgers, and they're a little more expensive, right? So, people come to McDonald's. The Wendy's say just opened. Nah. The Wendy's, whatever. People start coming and they want cheeseburgers. And the boss says, no, sorry, we don't sell cheeseburgers here. But you might want, if you want to find a cheeseburger somewhere else, there's this place across the street that might help. They got cheeseburgers. So that customer goes across the street to the Wendy's and gets a cheeseburger. And then, we'll phase out the Big Mac and we'll phase out the Quarter Pounder, and they got something equivalent across the street. A little more expensive, but right? So who should get fired? Well, I mean, I guess the guy owns both restaurants, so I guess he can't fire himself. So we're talking about the guy running the restaurants, maybe. I don't know. See, maybe that's it. I never thought of that. Maybe, well, because the owners I never thought about this analogy, this part of it, but the owners are the MPs, right? So maybe we need to fire the MPs.
In its report of the 15th of May, the Industrial Inquiry Commission led by Kaplan gave recommendations. That is why we are announcing that today we are announcing the recommendations of the Kaplan report, and we shall implement all these recommendations that were made to the government to stabilize the financial situation of Canada Post. In detail, first of all, I'm instructing Canada Post to ease its delivery standards. Mail is being delivered 2 to 3 days. By adjusting its standards, particularly by withdrawing the requirement to deliver to every address 5 days a week and allowing other non-urgent mail to be sent by land, they will be able to save about 20 million per year. Furthermore, the government is ending the moratorium on community mailbox conversions. Already, 3/4 of Canadians receive their mail either in a community mailbox or in a mailbox in a building or in a rural mailbox. Only 1/4 of Canadians still receive their mail directly at home. This is a costly service. For example, delivery per address per year per resident is about $200 and something compared to $19 in the community mailbox. Today, we are authorizing Canada Post to convert about 4,000 additional mailboxes, and this would allow a savings of about 400 million at the end. Furthermore, as the Kaplan report recommended, we are removing the rural moratorium and have asked Canada Post to come back with a plan to protect services in rural and remote and indigenous communities. To give you the context, the rural moratorium was imposed in 2014 and covers about 4 million sites and has not changed for 30 years. The country has changed. As a result, zones that used to be rural have become suburbs or even urban areas. In some cases, we have several offices close together, some meters away, which have to remain open in spite of because of the moratorium. And this prevents the corporation from tightening its network and to become more competitive. Let me be clear, Canada Post has the obligation to serve all Canadians everywhere in the country, and this situation will not change. Lastly,
Okay. Rural post offices. I've now watched this speech a few times, and I learn something or I notice something new every time. I guess that's just the same with everything. And he talks here about the rural post offices again, and how there's some really close to each other. All right, then. My thing, though, is that we've got these things. We've got, I think, 5 of them now that we've been piloting, and I believe they're still active, called the community hubs. And not once do they mention anything about how perhaps maybe we can transform more of these post offices into community hubs and develop other streams of income from that post office. You know, the retail store. And I mean, my big thing is groceries. I'd love to see a low-cost grocery store attached to this place, making it a community center, you know? Add a little theater to it. Already, the ones we already have business services, have galleries, Memberto. They have a gift shop gallery thing, and the business services where you can come and have board meetings for your small business, and if you don't have an office, etc., etc. It's already working. They claim in the Kaplan report that that idea won't make money right now. We've been doing it. Just expand it. They don't talk about that ever. And then in the public, later on, you'll see it gets back to the damn wages. And I'm watching people make comments, probably right now, claiming that, oh, we got to do all these changes because we're losing money. We're losing money because our boss is not marketing and getting more business like a regular business should be doing when it's losing sales. Instead, they're tanking it. And we said no more. That's why we walked off the job. I wanted to get out of my truck, turn it off, and just walk home because I live nearby. But I had the decency to come back and leave the truck at the depot. So anyway, once again, they're not talking about that, and my dog's going crazy. I'm not sure if you can hear that. I wonder if someone's delivering my mail with a perlator logo on it.
The government is reviewing the process that has to do with stamp rates. The objective is to modernize it and to speed up the process, as Commissioner Kaplan recommended. The measures announced today will help stabilize the financial situation of Canada Post and help save up to $500 million a year. It will not be sufficient. In addition to the measures I'm announcing today, Canada Post must adapt. Just as the government is revising its expenditure to be more efficient, to invest more, and to protect our social programs, I'm asking Canada Post to do the same. I'm therefore asking them to take immediate action to respond to these financial challenges, reduce operational costs, and this also means reviewing and lightening its management structures. Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. We need to respond. Today's announcement wants to make sure that Canada Post is ready to take up the challenge and continue serving Canadians for generations to come. I know that Canadians care about the future of Canada Post. Canada Post workers care about its future, and its management also care about Canada Post. I am optimistic that today's announcement will help renew the relationship so that we can save this institution that deserves to be saved. Thank you very much. I'll now move over to my remarks in English.
So a few months ago, Canadians elected our government and gave us a clear mandate. They asked us to reduce operating costs so as to ensure that essential services are sustainable. They asked us to be decisive and to lead in the best interest of Canadians. Today, we're doing just that by taking concrete actions to stabilize the financial situation at Canada Post and by taking steps to chart its future path. Because Canada Post is a vital national institution, an institution older than our country and that has helped build it. Because for 158 years, and to this day, postal workers have connected Canadians, rain or shine, in small town and in big cities, providing a lifeline to hundreds of northern, Indigenous, and rural communities. Because Canada Post is an institution worth saving, and because at this junction in its history, it's an institution that needs saving. To give you a sense of what I mean when I say it's an institution that needs saving, since 2018, Canada Post has accumulated more than $5 billion in losses. Last year, in 2024, it operated at a loss of $1.3 billion and required an injection of $1 billion in January to keep it afloat. In the second quarter of 2025, the corporation lost $407 million, their worst quarter ever. And at present, the corporation is losing $10 million every day.
Okay, so we've been losing money, and I'm going to repeat this again. What is my boss doing to increase sales? They've done nothing but spend money, right? And they don't talk about this ever. The plan, there was a business plan, it's on the internet still, of the 5-year plan, which after the time and the strike and the commission, I've now lost track of what, I think we're in year 4 now. Anyway, there's a 5-year plan to spend a bunch of money, invest and build shit and buy shit. And they did that. But it didn't quite work well because you bought the trucks before you got the charging stations. And now we got all these trucks that are like $140,000 each sitting around doing nothing. While I work in a truck that gets up to 50 degrees on a hot day 2 weeks ago. No, last week. Right? And then I get a safety meeting on how to lift a box properly when I'm going to go outside and almost pass out every day around 3:30 because it's so freaking hot in my truck. So we got all these trucks sitting around that were bought. What a waste of money. And that's just one thing. They never talk about it. They never talk about how we can make more money, expanding services. Okay, yeah, postal banking. I know it's a tired topic, but it works in other places. And when we did a study on that, guess why that went down the toilet? Because we got the banks in on the deal. They were part of the commission and such, or whatever the study, which we're going to talk about in a later show. That's on the list been on the list for a long time. So they got in and quashed it, right? Because why would CIBC, TD, Royal Bank, why would they want us in the market? Oh no, you guys, you wouldn't want to do this job. We don't make any money at it. No, you do better with the parcels, right? What was that? I hope that's not my dog. I don't know if you can hear that. Jeez, something crazy. Anyway, how about we watch the minister here some more, and I'm going to find out if my house is falling apart.
Canada Post is effectively insolvent, and it is facing an existential crisis. Now, how did we get there? Well, 20 years ago, Canada Post delivered 5.5 billion letters per year. Today, that number is 2 billion. And while the number of letters has dropped, the number of households has increased. Thus, Canada Post is delivering fewer letters to more addresses. Second, while letter mail volumes decline, Canadians have been sending and receiving more packages than ever before. But they're turning increasingly away from Canada Post and toward private competitors who are faster and more cost efficient. In 2019, Canada Post delivered 62% of all parcels sent in Canada. Today, it's less than 24% and shrinking fast. Now, the third reason we got here is that government-imposed restrictions and a stalled relationship between management and labor have hindered Canada Post's capacity to evolve and adapt. So the bottom line is this: Canada Post is effectively insolvent. It provides an essential service to Canadians, and in particular to rural, remote, and Indigenous communities, and Canadians are rightfully attached to it and want it safe. However, repeated bailouts from the federal government are not the solution. So where do we go from here? In its report of May 15, the Industrial Inquiry Commission, led by William...
Hang on one second. Oh, shoot. Took me so long to hit the pause button, I forgot what I was going to say. Keep in mind, though, this commission, because he's going to talk about this report, right? And I'm going to say this again, I've said this a million times too, is that we got people here, this guy with a suit, who, yes, has been elected fairly and democratically. But we have these guys that are making decisions without ever putting on a satchel, right? They listened to the guys. And that's another thing. Doug and his cronies have been here for like 5 years, right? I've been here for 12 coming up. And a lot of the people on the committee, 37, 38 years, right? Who do you think is better at figuring out how to make this company work better than you or I, speaking to other posties right now? And you know, as well as I, all the little things that are happening in our daily routine that could be adjusted to make it better. But instead, it gets worse every day. More money is wasted every day. More supervisors are coming in our door to harass us, to make us and force us to break the Section 50 or Article 50 of the Canada Post Act. Every minute. I did it yesterday. Oops. We did it yesterday. Right? As in the whole company, because this new system called separate sort and delivery makes the mail be late. One day, no matter what. Because my mail gets sorted the day before I deliver it. And that's been happening for a while now, but... All right, back to the minister.
Kaplan addressed these challenges and provided a path forward. And today, I'm announcing that we're accepting all of the recommendations directed to the government by William Kaplan in its report, and that we're making the following changes to stabilize the financial situation at Canada Post.
Oh, are you going to increase sales?
I'm instructing Canada Post to introduce flexibilities in their delivery standards. The average household...
Force the boss to get sales by next week? How about that? Or else you're fired. just like everybody else. Maybe just think of Bug's Life. You're fired! I'm sorry, did I say that too loud?
Receive just 2 letters per week, yet operations are still designed for much higher volumes. Adjusting delivery standards will allow non-urgent mail to travel by ground instead of air and will save more than 20 million a year to the corporation. Next, the government is removing the moratorium on the conversion to community.
Okay. The changing of the days of delivery, that's also in the Canada Post Act, right? Every address, every day, I believe it is, 5 days a week. So now that can be changed without any type of mandate review, public, democratic, anything. One guy is making these changes just before the review. And handy that this offer supposedly we're getting from the boss today, or was it now Monday? Well, like I said, these things get stalled over and over and over. I'm talking to the wrong camera. They get stalled over and over while all these things get pushed through. And now the commission, go and watch my breaking down the bullshit of the commission from the last episode. You'll get to hear how Kaplan talks down to us. He never accepts and never accepted anything we've said. All the letters we sent him during the commission, ignored. Same with the MPs 2 weeks ago. All of the conversations we had with MPs, all of the meetings, all of the pickets, they didn't listen to a thing. They went with this report. And how much was spent on this report? How much was Kaplan paid for the 4 or 5 months, whatever, 5 months, right? How much was he paid? Where's the money coming to spend on all these things? All the stuff they've done, all the money they spent on PR the last 9 months. Waste right there, right? Imagine that on a daily basis. I have mail that they call flats that I've sorted. Well, I used to sort on my own. And then you get sequence mail, which is done by a machine, which is done by a machine and forced to be done by a machine to justify buying it years ago before I started. Again, waste, because we used to sort all of it. To save time, they bought machines. So now a letter from Halifax goes to blah, 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 to blah, 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 to go to your house across the street in Halifax. Waste of money. Anyway, I got flats, then I have sequence mail. Not everybody does it this way. And when I do have flyers, the flyers are on the back or in my satchel. So you go up to a house, you take something from this bundle in your flyers, and say you have a little packet. Oh, and then you gotta scan the thing. All right, well, put the packet here. And, oh, crap, it's a mail slot. I'll try to open the mail slot with all the mail I got in this hand to stick it in. All right, now I gotta get my scanner out of my thing. And oh, crap, it's winter. I got gloves on, and now I gotta take off the glove. See what I'm saying? All that takes time, too, that we don't get for that. I can go on and on and on, and you can add up, take your calculator, and you'll find where the waste is. It's not that some of us letter carriers can get their routes done faster by not taking the breaks in the times that are made for it, right? I'm getting worked up.
Mailboxes. 3/4 of Canadians already receive mail through community, apartment, or rural mailboxes, while 1/4 still receive door-to-door delivery. It's an expensive service, and by way of example, delivering mail to an individual address costs the corporation $279 a year, whereas delivering mail to a community mailbox costs $157 a year. And 77% of Canadians already...
Here's another thing I've been saying for months, is the SSD, it's being pushed in. Anyway.
Receive mail through various form community boxes. As such, I'm authorizing Canada Post to introduce community mailboxes to approximately 4 million more addresses, which will save the corporation nearly $400 million per year.
It'll save you $400 million per year. How much is it going to cost to now put in all the rest of those CMBs? Because as far as I know, here in Calgary now, you got to go back. I don't know, maybe these things are in a file somewhere from when this was going to happen before. But you got to figure out where those sites are going to be. Then you're going to have to, I guess, negotiate something with the city to use that space for your CMB. And then someone's going to come in and going to have to put a little bit of pavement cement there to put the CMB on. And I can tell you right now, half of my route, pretty much my whole community, is door to door. So how much is it going to cost just for my community? Where is the money coming that supposedly we're using to be able to put all these new changes that he just made yesterday into place? We've lost 5 letter carrier routes in my depot. 5, I believe. Some of them are full-time, some of them are part-time, just from the restructure that's happened a month ago. We've already been cutting jobs. They're doing it already under sneaky, you know? Inside jobs, they just don't fill them again. They cut them and then don't fill them because you bid it quite often on the different shifts and such when you're working inside, unlike letter carriers.
Future. Now, as recommended in the Kaplan report, we'll also be lifting the rural moratorium, and I'm instructing Canada Post to come back with a plan that will ensure protection of service in rural, remote, and Indigenous communities.
Okay, you want Canada Post to come back with a plan. How about our plan, CUPW's plan? How about community hubs? In every rural post office across Canada becomes a community hub. Ta-da! I mean, we got to build some and adjust some and all that, but start with the retail portion of your little post office. Start thinking like a retailer.
To give some context, the rural moratorium was imposed in 1994 and covers close to 4,000 locations. It has not evolved in 30 years, but Canada has changed. This means that areas that used to be rural may now be suburban or even urban. It also means that multiple post offices operating near each other, including some just a few hundred meters apart, are required to stay open because of the moratorium. Lifting this moratorium will allow Canada Post to right-size its network to adapt to today's demographics. But I want to be clear, Canada Post has an obligation to serve all Canadians in every community in Canada, and that will not change. Lastly, the government is reviewing the process for increases to the stamp rate to modernize and shorten it in line with Commissioner Kaplan's recommendations. Taken together, these measures will help stabilize Canada Post's financial situation by generating close to $500 million per year. But there's more work to do. As our government reviews its expenses so that we can spend less and invest more, I'm asking Canada Post to do the same. In addition to the measures I'm announcing today, the corporation must adapt. I'm asking Canada Post to take immediate steps to address its financial challenges. That means finding efficiencies, reducing costs, reducing overhead, and I want to be clear, that also means reviewing and lightening its management structure. This is a pivotal moment, not just for the corporation, but for Canadians who rely on it every single day. Today,
Review their management structure. Who gets to review it? Is it like Doug gets to review himself? Because as far as I'm concerned, the biggest thing you need to do at this very second is get new management. Get people in there that are gung-ho for getting sales driven up. Right? This connection with Perlator is the problem. Because the Perlator is stunting the sales in Canada Post on purpose.
This announcement is about making sure Canada Post can meet this moment and continue to serve Canadians for generations to come. Canadians care about the future of Canada Post, and I know both workers and management share that same commitment. I hope that in light of today's announcement and the work ahead, both management and the union can return to the table with a renewed relationship and work toward a viable future. Canada Post is facing an existential crisis. It's an institution that is worth saving, and we're beginning the work today. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. We'll turn now to the room for questions. We will start with one question and one follow, and we'll begin with Alessia Pasafume from the Canadian Press.
Hi, Minister. The union has said that they were not told that this announcement was coming and that a meeting you had scheduled with them was postponed. Why didn't you keep them in the loop about the changes that were going to be made?
Yes, well, first, I want to thank the union. We've had a productive conversation Friday last week, and some of the issues that they raised are reflected in the announcement I'm making today, notably around reviewing the management structure at Canada Post, but also the process in terms of increasing the price of stamps.
Does that mean Doug? And if they had a productive meeting on Friday, well, anyway, again, forget. What about making money? Make money, make choices, make decisions that make money.
Now, as far as the meeting is concerned this week, I was not aware, but I'll be always happy to meet with the union to discuss, because they play an essential role in Canada Post's future. And I know that just as much as I do, just as much as Canadians do, they care very much about the future of Canada Post and its financial viability.
If we care so much, and if you accept that we care so much, why are you ignoring everything we say? Talk down to us. Have a commissioner Kaplan who talks down to us, who takes every single idea. I keep looking at the wrong camera. Takes every single idea and says, nope, ain't gonna work, ain't gonna work, ain't gonna work, ain't gonna work. Piloting things. Oh, ain't gonna work. We don't have the money to pilot things. Do we have the money to continue the conversion to CMB? Do we have the money? Oh, gosh. Where are the charging stations for our new trucks?
To Canada Post here, have you made any progress in finding a buyer for the pandemic era mobile hospitals, or are we just stuck with them?
I'll be happy to take this offline after the Canada Post announcement, if you don't mind. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that confused me. I was like, I didn't remember.
Christian Noel, Radio Canada.
Bonjour, Monsieur Lightbound.
Good afternoon, Mr. Lightbound. For those listening to us from home, to be clear, is this the beginning of the end for day-to-day, door-to-door delivery? Answer, there are two things you've just stated. First of all, for 77% of Canadians, there's no residential delivery. Most Canadians receive their mail in community mailboxes or in buildings, so not necessarily at their door. Yes, we are lifting the obligation to deliver letter mail every day, 5 days a week at home. It will depend on operational needs of Canada Post.
All right, so this is my concern for my job. So now we're going down to 3-day delivery, I guess. I don't know, not 5, whatever. So our parcels suck right now because no one's doing anything about getting more of the business share or market share. So say this 3-day thing, this whatever, gets implemented next week when we go back to work or whatever, and there's no parcels. Am I not coming in 5 days a week all of a sudden? Like, where's my job security here? Do I need to get a part-time job? But I can't get a part-time job unless I get the permission of Canada Post first, according to the Canada Post Code of Conduct. If any employee wants to do something outside of the work hours of Canada Post, that could say, I don't know, if you go skiing and say you're, I don't know, becoming a competitive skier, you're not allowed to do that because it could jeopardize your job. So in other words, you could get fired to do anything in life that's exciting. They got us, right? So we all have to go and break the code of conduct if we want to go get extra money to pay our bills. So, and folks, I know you're worried about the money we're losing here not working today. We're going to lose more money in the future if we don't do something today.
It's not going to happen overnight. The corporation has to inform Canadians. This reflects the reality where it it is becoming less necessary considering the reduction in volume?
Question. First, 77% of Canadians don't receive their mail delivered directly at their door. They receive it through rural mailboxes or community mailboxes or in apartment buildings. So we're lifting the moratorium, which will mean 4 million more addresses will now be covered, well, in years to come through community mailboxes. So that's the first part. The second part is we're lifting the requirement for Canada Post to deliver mail every day, so 5 days a week, to individuals. That will allow the corporation to go based on volume, so deliver where delivery is needed instead of going every day to every address.
J'aimerais savoir donc ce que vous dites aux personnes.
Now, what are you telling people with reduced mobility and seniors who have to receive mail, who are now receiving mail at home? Now, is this resolve the financial problem of Canada Post, which is facing an existential crisis? You are saying that it's not going to resolve the problem. What else can be done to help Canada Post from stop losing more money every day? Answer. In my own riding, 80% of the population receive their mail directly at home. Now, considering seniors, a program was introduced when community mailbox conversion started, and it works very well. When someone has reduced mobility, has difficulty getting to a community mailbox, they can obtain assistance. As these changes take root for the 4 million addresses that have to be converted into community mailboxes, Canada Post would inform the population of this program and how to access it to make sure that all Canadians, irrespective of their circumstances, could continue receiving their mail. So that's what I have to say about seniors and people with reduced mobility. The second thing, the financial viability of Canada Post starts with today's announcement. It will not stop today. It is certain that there's still a lot of work to be done. That's why I'm asking the corporation to review its operations, reduce cost, review its management structure. We can have a serious discussion about the financial viability of Canada Post in the long term if those recommendations are not implemented, which are the fruit not only of my reflections with my team, but of Commissioner Kaplan, who thoroughly studied the issue and made recommendations to the government. So this would help save about $500 million a year. I and the government believe that Canada Post is an essential service. It's an institution that needs to be served. There are two options. Either we continue infusing funds to Canada Post, providing more and more money to Canada Post, or we act now, we invest in the transition and transformation of Canada Post to help them get to financial viability. I think it's possible.
Yeah, so as I've mentioned, 77% of Canadians don't receive their mail delivered directly at their door. So for the remaining 4 million addresses that will now be covered through community mailboxes, as Canada Post has in years past converted and implemented the community mailboxes, it's also developed a program to assist with those senior citizens or people with disabilities who might have issues reaching the community mailboxes to make sure that they have access to their mail. So as this is rolled out across the 4 million addresses that remain to be converted, Canada Post will inform Canadians as they go and make sure that that program is well known, well understood.
Who's paying
and it's
for it?
worked very efficiently to make sure that all Canadians, regardless of their circumstances, have access to their mail.
How are we paying for it? Maybe per leader
Stephanie
can
Taylor,
help.
the National Post.
Hi, Minister. I think Canadians understand the numbers where things are with Canada Post, but what makes you think that what makes your government think that people will be accepting these changes? I'm thinking particularly of seniors and those relying on rural postal offices that could be closed, and those who do still like and maybe use the door-to-door delivery.
That's a very good question, and I think collectively as a country we've had that debate in the past, and I remember certainly 2015 and even Denis Coderre in Montreal removing a community mailbox. However, the reality has changed over the last 10 years. It's changed a lot over the last 5 years, it's changed in many ways. First, it's changed, the financial situation of Canada Post has changed drastically. While it was profitable in 2015, it is clearly no longer viable financially.
And why? They say it's the dropping letter mail one day. Then it's the competition is nimble and flexible, but they charge more. And then our partials drop and percolators are exploding. And Dragonfly and blah, blah, blah. Well, we sell off our logistics company for some reason because, we wouldn't want to be nimble and flexible. And then Perlator, after Canada Post gets money, buys a customs brokerage type of company. So you tell me, why are we not viable? Because nobody is going out there and getting the business. We were heroes. Now we're zeros.
Essentially. And the second thing, the reality has changed in terms of the number of letters we're getting, how we're using Canada Post services. So I think there's an understanding amongst Canadians that something needs to happen if we want to preserve that institution. And I think what we're doing today is the start of this transformation. And the goal ultimately is to save Canada Post.
On the figure.
Oui. Oui, okay. Oui.
I was asked what makes us to believe that today Canadians are ready to accept the changes we're proposing. Lots of changes have already been implemented. When we talk about the fact that 77% of Canadians already receive their mailboxes in community mailboxes, that is important. I, like many others, remember the collective debates we had about that in 2015, and I think about Denis Coderre in Montreal, who brought down a community mailbox. The reality is that 10 years ago.
Okay, another thing about these community mailboxes in the rural areas, they're like super boxes, they call them, right? And they're huge. Some of them have like a glassed, domed in, like a little greenhouse. And they're easily broken into. The one story I heard is the guys took their trucks in a small town and they wrapped a chain around it and gave it a big yank, and away it went. I don't think they actually, I'm sure it probably did some damage to their vehicle, but these solutions are worse for people, not for me as the delivery person. Sure, okay, it's easier for me to deliver a whole bunch of mail to a community mailbox, a CMB, than it is to go and walk a block. In some ways, I prefer the walking myself, because to me, I mean, they have all these rules. You got the rules make it very difficult until you get a system to do the process well, right? But I have a problem with knuckles hitting things on the CMBs.
He did that with all pomp, but the attitude of Canadians was different, and the financial reality of Canada Post is totally different. In 2015, Canada Post was profitable. It's no longer the case. And since 2018, there's a cumulative deficit of 5 billion, and we had to inject money. And if we look into the future, Canadians will continue giving Canada Post more money just to keep it afloat.
It's a public service. It's not supposed to make money. To keep it afloat, we go find more business and expand services. Elder check-ins, I know we keep going on and back and forth. And we have better ideas than the ones we keep talking about. They're still good ideas, so we should just implement them instead of talking about them and see what happens. If we would have done postal banking years ago, if we would have done a lot of these things years ago, we would be making money now. But we keep saying, oh no, we'll pilot it, and it's working, but we won't do it. We won't do it. No, we won't do it, because the plan has always been to privatize. The plan has always been to explode it from the inside. And someone like Donald Trump has made that quite popular now for people with money. Let's just blow up this bull. Let's just blow up this shit and make it better for us. We'll make some money along the way, right? Hey, Doug, when are you coming out with your cryptocurrency?
I think that aware of that reality and the fact that people are using the post less and less, particularly because of the pandemic, we understand that these actions are decisive, that will help save this institution, which plays an essential role and which Canadians care about.
Do you have an idea in mind of how long this phase out process would take from the door-to-door delivery to kind of all addresses, or as many as Canada Post might want to with the...
There we go. That's my answer. So when am I only delivering 3 days a week? Let's find out what he says. It's funny. I obviously must have blanked out in rage yesterday while listening to this. Although it yeah.
Barring the exceptions to get to the community mailboxes, how long is that phase
We're
out?
talking about 4 million addresses. It'll happen over the course of the next 9 years, the bulk of which will be in the next 4 years, 3-4 years.
Olivier Fraun-Brosset, TVA.
Merci.
So over 9 years, we're going to bring in all these CMBs that are in storage. And then he said 4 years. Completion in 4 years. No, 9 years. Ah! In other words, it's not next week, but...
Mia, bonjour.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. Returning to profitability by Canada Post, is this a reality? Is it realistic someday? Yes, I don't think it's going to be easy, but I think it's possible. When we look at today's announcement, ultimately about $500 million. When we look at what we need to do to change some rates to reflect the reality of other countries, if we look, I'm giving them 45 days to do so, to give a plan on how they would respond to these financial challenges and measures to review their structures and management structures and operations. There's something that we do not control, clearly indicated in the Kaplan report, considering the flexibility and latitude that Canada Post may have to deliver mail on weekends, recruit part-time workers. That is up to the management and the union. I think they both care about the financial viability of the company.
See, and that's where we're at a problem here is 7-day delivery has always been available, and it's been taken down and replaced and moved and restarted and blah, blah, blah. And now it's exhausting. It's exhausting.
All that is done, it's possible to get to a break-even point. Question.
That's what
that's
what I was going to say. It's up to the union and the boss to figure out these changes and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yet this gentleman is forcing in the changes that the boss wants, not part of our collective our demands and what we've been negotiating so far. Because a lot of these things that are now being brought in are part of our negotiations. They shouldn't be even brought in until we come to an agreement. SSD and the moratoriums are all what we're fighting about, and that's why we're at this stalemate. So this guy
savings expected and the demands you're making for Canada Post to reduce its operational cost, we will not get to the 1 billion that we're expecting. What would be an acceptable loss that the government can accept in the short term?
Mm-hmm.
Answer.
Yeah.
I have another perspective. If nothing is done, new losses will be unacceptable. today we are talking about 2.7 billion per year,
Then get
8
more
billion over the
sales.
next 5 years. This is significant. So we need to try, in my opinion,
To get more sales.
when we look at the Kaplan recommendations, it's clear
They're not
that
getting sales.
it's not all. Corporations also need to make some major efforts.
To fire Doug and get a better
What has
sales team.
prevented Canada Post from modernizing? Well, we either inject money or transform the institution so that we have lower deficits and ultimately get to financial viability. That is clear.
And what is viability?
What citizen?
Hello, Minister. Thanks. Nice seeing you. Nice to see you too. Quick question about the direction to the corporation, especially around efficiencies and the lightening and reviewing of the management structure. I'm just wondering and just curious hearing a bit more about that direction. And did you give them a target? And are those efficiencies just for the management level, or are we going to see the efficiencies all the way through Canada Post?
Yeah. So it's throughout the organization, but I want, they must look at management, with a cold, hard look. And I haven't set a target specifically, but I've given them 45 days. And I think there's an understanding that as our government is going through its own comprehensive expenditure review, Canada Post needs to do the same.
I understand.
All right, so we got 45 days to go through a review. Who's doing this review? Who's paying for this review? Is this the mandate he's talking about? The mandate review. Maybe that's what he's talking about. Because to me, in my opinion, the mandate review is something totally different than the operations and finding out where money needs to be cut and blah, 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 which always means us, the bottom first. Not the supervisors, not the bonuses for at-risk bonus, not that. Do we have 45 days to get Doug out of there? I have a plan for that.
But the Kaplan adoption of the Kaplan recommendations is kind of a short-term solution now. I'm curious about the road ahead and that medium to long-term transformation of Canada Post. Can you take us through what are the next steps of this process? What are the conversations being had? And what is the roadmap for the government with Canada Post?
Well, I think we're starting with a pretty big chantier, if you will, with these lifting the moratoriums and going forward with all the recommendations that Kaplan has highlighted for the government. Now,
all the recommendations. Why? Why does this guy? They basically paid their way to get. The boss got the government to pay a guy to basically repeat what the boss is saying, without taking into consideration how to increase sales.
Canada Post needs to go through a review every 5 years. It's been 7 years since the last review. There will be a review seeking to look at what can be Canada Post in 10, 15, 20 years. I know
There's
that
really not going to be much left to review when you went and changed and just rammed through some of the major things that need to be discussed and talked about and debated about. And take into consideration the people living in these small towns that you're just deciding today or yesterday to make this decision. You've just decided in one person living in Didsbury with their big super box already.
OGO, the Parliamentary Committee, will also be looking at Canada Post, most probably. Those reviews, conversations will help inform us. But in the meantime, and I think, given that Canada Post is losing $10 million a day today, we need to take the short-term and immediate steps that will allow Canada Post to, find a more stable financial footing.
Buy more customers.
Remy Autier, CPAC.
Get more sales.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Ministre.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. You're announcing these changes, which indirectly will impact the workers of Canada Post. There's a labor dispute going on for months now between Canada Post and its union. Was this the right time to announce the need for change, the need for a plan to change the structure? Is there no danger here? Answer. the current dispute has been going on for 20 months.
22.
In my capacity as minister responsible for public funds and a government responsible for funds, at a time when the corporation is losing $10 million.
Yeah, I feel a little bit sorry for this guy because the buck has been passed to him. He's taken the fall now, right? Because this is really Stephen McKinnon's issue. And the reason I ran in the election is because I wanted to look that gentleman in the eyes and say, you've ruined people's lives. You took cancer medication out of the hands of someone dying of cancer. Then I wanted to go in the house and do what PP does all the time and look across the aisle at the Minister of Jobs and Family and look her in the eye and say, you've ruined the lives of workers. Well, now I have a third person that when I get to Parliament, I can look across the aisle, across the House, in his eyes and say, you've ruined the lives of postal workers and Canadians living in rural areas.
Asking for injection of funds from the federal government, and the requests keep increasing. I don't think I have the leisure to wait any longer. My hope is, after speaking with the union and management, is that the two parties definitely care about the long-term viability of Canada Post, not necessarily the same vision on how to get there. What I hope is that by sending the message today that will change to transform Canada Post because it's necessary, because the corporation is facing
The message you gave me yesterday was that it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter how many times you pour out your heart to us. It doesn't matter how many people come to the office of Corey Horner, to his office, and sit in there and have a conversation with his staffer who says things that make us feel good and then we walk out of the room and I don't know, it literally, whatever we said lit on fire. We've given our visions for the future of Canada Post, all ignored by this today. The Kaplan Commission had submissions. You can find them online. Submissions from the public, from workers, from everywhere. If any of those suggestions or concerns were even considered, the results of this would not be the way they are right now.
Existential crisis, it could restore the relationship so that the two parties may negotiate in light of today's announcement. Question: today's announcement covers one of the two major aspects of Canada Post's work, mail delivery. You said that there's been a drop of the market share for parcel delivery. In your opinion, are there any elements that you're offering or that Canada Post could offer as a solution to take back part of the market share? How do you think that Canada Post could play a greater role in parcel delivery? Answer: it's fundamental. Even when we think about community mailboxes, we think of the little boxes for letters. There are also the boxes for parcels. This could be an efficient network that is very broad to deliver parcels throughout the country. Now, there are issues related to the capacity of Canada Post to deliver during the weekends, for example, to deliver quickly in a competitive manner, and that is beyond my capacity as minister. It's up to the union.
Okay, so now I get it. The reason why we're not flexible and nimble is because we can't deliver quickly. And we've been delivering 7 days a week for a long time with the MSCs, but then that stopped. And so then making a whole bunch of part-time people come in on Saturdays and Sunday, or even terms come in on Saturday and Sunday, that you're not paying the proper pensions and contributions and EI, blah, 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 because they're not full-time workers. How does that solve the problem of being quick with deliveries on a weekend? need more business. It's very simple, folks. We need somebody who's gung-ho for driving sales up, like, like the Wolf of Wall Street thing, whatever. Like, we need... Maybe we need to sell insurance, life insurance.
And the management to agree on those issues to improve its capacity to be competitive.
Good morning, Minister. Is this officially the end of the government bailing out Canada Post?
There will be instances, if you look at the financials, where Canada Post will have to come back to the government for
Doug still needs
cash injections.
His money.
So no, but it's a clear message that it will not be, there are limits to our capacity to bail out Canada Post year after year. And we need to, it needs to show a path to financial viability. That's what we're clearly asking the corporation.
Get more sales.
Oui. On me demandait, je suis pas habitué à ces, en français, en anglais.
I'm not used to switching from English to French. I was being asked if this was the end of the bailing out of Canada Post by the federal government. The answer is no. There will be clearly situations when you look at the financial projections of the corporation where the government will still need to inject funds to help out the corporation in its operations. It is, we are clearly establishing limits, boundaries, and we are sending a message to the corporation that it needs to find a path towards financial viability. We are giving it the means to get that, including by lifting the moratoriums that have stopped it from doing so.
What exactly does this mean for people who are living in rural areas? And also, Canadians don't like cuts to essential services like this. How do you get them to accept this at a time of austerity?
Yeah, well, the first thing I want to be extremely clear, when we're lifting the rural moratorium, it's really because that moratorium was put in place in 1994, covers, from memory, 3,962 post offices that used to be rural, but that aren't anymore. And I'll give you some examples. You can think of post offices in Richmond Hill, Gatineau, Stittsville here in the Ottawa region, Burnaby, who might have been rural in 1994, but are clearly more suburban, even urban in some instances. Now, that moratorium prevents Canada Post from closing these post offices or even transforming them to build housing. I have, some examples of locations where if Canada Post was allowed to transform and sell some of its land, we could build hundreds of units. So we're lifting that moratorium to address that challenge primarily. I'm asking the corporation to come back with a plan that will clearly, make sure that rural, remote, Indigenous communities are not impacted. And I want to be crystal clear on this. We know how important Canada Post services are in many, more remote communities across the land. And, the goal is to make sure that these services are preserved. And in fact, if resources are better allocated to underserved areas as opposed to over-serviced areas, we might find gains in rural and remote communities.
They don't like cuts to essential services.
I see it differently. I think, there are choices that we need to make as a government. And the path forward, if we're not doing anything, is $10 million in losses every day. It's billions in repeated bailouts year after year. And that means cuts to some services. So I think there are ways while protecting essential services that Canada Post offers Canadians, that we can make the corporation more efficient so that it can continue its mission and that we as a government can continue, many other essential missions of the states when we think of housing, childcare, support for seniors, and so on and so forth.
We'll now turn online for questions. If you are online and you have a question, please use the raised hand function. We'll start with Hélène Bouzetti.
Oui, bonjour, Monsieur Lightbound. Vous l'avez mentionné vous-même.
Interpretation will resume when the conditions will be met.
Sur la transition vers les boîtes postales en 2015, vous dites, bon, à l'époque, il n'y avait pas de déficit, mais ça a pris 2-3 années avant que les déficits embarquent. Est-ce que ça ne témoigne pas d'un manque flagrant de vision de la part de votre gouvernement? Et vous avez fait référence à M. Coder. La raison pour laquelle il voulait détruire ces boîtes postales, c'est parce qu'en milieu urbain densément construit, ça peut devenir extrêmement encombrant. Donc, j'aimerais savoir, est-ce que vous avez une solution à ça qu'on ne semblait pas avoir à l'époque?
Oui, ben, pour répondre à...
To answer your first question, the mandate we received in April, and I think many observers, including you, have noted that there's a change that the new government and Prime Minister Carney wants, and we're doing what Quebecers and Canadians expect, and that is take difficult decisions and spend less so we can invest more and preserve the social programs I mentioned in my previous answer. Now, talking about the transition to community mail boxes, Canada Post has great experience in that. And I believe that even operationally speaking, they will be able to do that, respect the integrity of territories.
Pas de lien avec la première, mais je me demande s'il n'y a pas quelque chose qui est prématuré dans cette annonce aujourd'hui, alors que, objectivement, vous ne faites rien pour accélérer le règlement du conflit de travail. Le rapport Kaplan est assez clair qu'il y a des pertes énormes, par exemple, avec ces postiers qui, s'ils finissent avant la fin de la journée, ils ne peuvent pas être déplacés sur une autre ligne pour aller faire le travail supplémentaire d'un collègue. On doit payer des heures supplémentaires alors que d'autres personnes qui ne travaillent pas alors qu'ils sont payés quand même. Est-ce qu'on n'aurait pas dû régler ce problème-là avant d'arriver et faire des changements fondamentaux dans le service qui est offert aux citoyens?
Oui, bien, d'abord...
Answer. To the extent that it depends on negotiations between the union and management, I respect the process. That is not within my purview. What is within my control as a government is clearly indicated in the Kaplan report: lift the moratorium, change the process for stamp rates, and change delivery standards. And that's what we're doing today.
Exemple.
C'est pas...
Answer. That is not our objective for now. Today's announcement, I may be being optimistic, but I hope that today's announcement will provide a new ground for negotiation so that the parties could negotiate in light of what has been announced today. As you know, the financial situation...
How does this make negotiations better? Because we already said no to all of this when we were forced to vote, pretty much. There's a breakdown that I haven't had time to look at where there's been some from the no vote, how it correlates exactly with what he's saying. There's quite a few things, but anyway, I'll get to that some other time. But yeah, how does this help? We've basically been told that what's going to be implemented is the commission, and we have a lot of problems with that stuff that's being implemented. We
of Canada Post is very precarious.
Good afternoon. With respect to the labor issue here, can this kind of restructuring be done without major wage cuts or layoffs? I mean, given you're talking about billions of dollars of losses and letter volume having fallen 70% in recent years?
Yeah, I think when you look at what we're announcing, for instance, in terms of community mailboxes, the implementation will be phased, and we, a lot of the reduction in workforce will be able to happen through attrition. But at the same time, I'm not managing Canada Post on a day-to-day basis.
He has no idea how this is going to work or what's going to happen. And when they say attrition, that's what they say every time. When I first started here, I told the party line, and I told people, oh, we're not really losing jobs with PT. It's only people retiring. And so they're really not firing anybody. So I can see that's where they're going with this one too. Oh, yeah, people retire. We just don't refill that position. And they're already doing that inside, which is causing the volume fluctuations to then fit the narrative that we're losing money, to then decimate everything and send partial business to perlator, because you don't know, the workers, they're a little like, I don't know, they're a little loosey goosey.
I leave it to the corporation to review its structure, review its operation to reduce costs, because as I've highlighted, we cannot go on, Canadians can go on footing the bill day after day, year after year.
Then go and find out why we lost the money other than what the boss is telling. We need a forensic audit into where the money was spent. Could it have been spent at a different time? And what can we do now to make up for that? Instead of having these trucks sitting around doing nothing, which I assume is happening because I haven't gotten a new one yet, why are they still sitting around 9 months after we started bringing this up? Why? Sell them off then. Get the money back. Liquidate it. I don't know. You got to do something with the stuff you've already screwed up. It's not because we're not working today. We're not working today to prove you need us. We're not working today to prove the rural post offices need us. We're not working today because you need your passports. And we know that. And they've been using perlator to deliver those passports to bypass us. Because supposedly we're going on strike at any moment from December 17th to September 25th. We've been here the whole time, and they've been getting perlator to deliver our parcels and our passports the entire time. We got Amazon returns back, and our parcels are going up. Have they mentioned that? Have they mentioned that the Amazon business has come back because, well, Buddy there screwed that up to begin with? How many money-making, income-generating things can you screw up before you lose your job? I know I could lose my job for not putting on my seatbelt every day, for speeding. There's lots of things I can get fired for that these guys get away with, like delay of the mail, the Canada Post Act, Section 50. There's a whole bunch of Canada Post Acts they've been breaking since I went back to work, and I have the proof.
With increasing deficits.
To follow up, other industries like autos and airlines that have heavily unionized workforces, when there are cutbacks, there are often other labor costs like pension short.
So, Air Canada, are you going to shut down Air Canada now? You know what? Let's do this business without planes. We'll just send up a whole bunch of, Wonder Woman invisible jets, and we'll put everybody, we'll pretend we're flying somewhere.
Falls. Are those kinds of things that you're going to be looking at as well, or will taxpayers be picking up that part of any tab as well?
That's a good question. My understanding is the pension is fully funded. That's not an issue, but well, of course, as the sole shareholder of Canada Post, I'll always, keep a close eye on its financial situation, and which is why I'm here today.
He's going to keep a good eye on the financials, huh? Oh, how about you look into the trucks I just keep talking about? Hey, Cheryl, how's it going? Thank you. And yeah, attrition. She brings up, it's been through attrition over 10 years now. How many supervisors do we need? How many superintendents do we need? Our supervisors and superintendents don't even know our contract. They don't even know what's going on. They've been asking me, and I go, oh, you might be losing your job too in a few months. So you might want to go look for a part-time job. Oh, wait, you need permission first. So you better go ask the manager of the building before you go look for that job waiting tables.
We have time for one more question online, and it'll be Josh Rubin from the Toronto Star.
Hi there. Thanks for taking my question. Just wondering what you would say to some of those Canada Post employees who are almost certainly looking at losing their jobs, as part of this restructuring, as part of this new vision for the corporation. I mean, what message would you give to them? And do you have some sympathy for people who put in decades of work and kind of gone out, the rain or snow and all of the poetic stuff that we've always heard over the years?
Yeah, those poetic stuff.
Well, first, I would say that I have the utmost respect and admiration for postal workers for everything they've done for years to Canadians, and that they do day in and day out. And what this announcement is about say.
If you believe that, come do my job. Mr. Lightbound, this is what I would have said to you across the house. How about you take one day in Ottawa, go down to the nearest depot from Parliament or wherever you live when you're there, put on a satchel. Actually, let's just wait for a few weeks so that it's really cold. Put on some get-a-grips that are given to you from Canada Post, not the ones that you buy yourself that work. I'll maybe give you one of those parkas. You go out there, and we're going to take you to one of the parts of Ottawa that has the most stairs. Then, we don't have a lot of mail anymore because we're walking past 75% of the houses with no mail, right, Mr. Lee? Mr. Ian Lee? Mr. Gann, another person who's never put on a satchel. Doug, never put on a satchel. Then what we're going to do, because there's no mail, we're going to fill your satchel with rocks to that maximum. Then we're going to put the flats and the sequence and the flyers, and then you get to do all those stairs with Costco's, U-Lines, AMA magazines. They don't do those things, so they have no idea how this works. They don't live in rural areas. They are not trying to decide between paying rent and utilities and somehow have money left over for food, because I don't have the time to have 4 jobs anymore in my life. I had too many jobs before, and I missed 3 years of my kids' lives. So because I have now one job, I get to come home and spend my time with my family. But sometimes I'm so damn tired and so angry and so lost, I come home and just go to bed. I spent almost 2 years in bed. I'd go to work, I'd come home, get in bed, and I'd stay there till the next morning. Eat, do work, play on my iPad. 2 years. And now if I want to go and perform on a weekend, which I'm doing again soon, folks, in Calgary, I have to get permission from my supervisor. What a surprise. 40 days. A plan in 40 days. Okay, so this 45-day plan, what about the 5-year business plan we were already in that have obviously, is that gonzo? Are we so far off track from the business plan that it's just forget about it? So can we then liquidate all the mistakes like the trucks? I don't know why today I'm obsessed with these trucks. Maybe because I got a step van. I had a little tiny transit for my last route. And when it was really hot, it was my escape. In fact, I don't think I would have made it through some of those hot days without that, especially with the smoke last summer. It was really bad. But now I have a step van, and it's the horror that I was so scared of, which is the heat in the trucks. So maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I just want one of them new trucks so I have air conditioning again. Oh. Thanks for reminding me. All right, so we finally got through that. And of course, as usual, it's taken me about 3 times longer than I expected because I talk a lot. Just like when I deliver the mail, I talk to my customers. I have relationships with my customers. Some of them voted for me. In fact, I met one yesterday. Here's a great story. How about I change the mood a little? And I was at one of my panels at a little housing development, whatever you call them, and one of the ladies came over and asked if I had finished, and I said, yeah, just finished up, and we started chatting, and she said, hope you guys win your fight against the government. And I was like, "Ooh, cool." It's not again, she knows what's going on, obviously. And so I say, oh boy, yeah, well, if you can hear my phone, you can hear the radio on my phone going, and there's just been some announcements, and then I proceeded to tell her what was going on. But anyway, and I went, oh, and by the way, you probably might scare you a little here, but I'm also I was your candidate in the election for the NDP, so those orange signs had my name on it. And she goes, oh, I voted NDP. And I go, oh, you voted for me. It was lots of fun. But she's totally on our side. And those are the moments I enjoy. That's why I do this job. That's why I'm putting up with all this garbage, is because once I get out there and once I see Shireen and Helen and Noel and Jessica, all those people, that's why we do it. Anyhow, I was going to do the CBC thing, but I think we'll save that for the next show. Oh boy, what is going on here? There we go. So I was going to show you this other thing here, if I can. Oh, we'll just show it on you. Alright. You've already heard the beginning of this a billion times, and if you're on my share something else. Okay. Let's share that. Okay. This has been very popular since I posted it, and
it's time. The Canadian
I hit it too many.
government issued a press release today about opening the door to reforming Canada Post. What does that mean in the short term? In the short term, that means that if you have a rural post office, it's closing because you don't matter to them. If you receive door-to-door delivery, that's going away because they don't care about that either. They are worried about the fact that Canada Post is on track to lose $1.5 billion this year. Gee, I wonder how that happened. Could it be because the government lent Canada Post $1 billion and then lickety split seconds later, Purolator suddenly had the money to buy a customs brokerage for nearly the same amount? Could it be that they're losing money because the CEO, Doug Ettinger, continues to enjoy a $500,000 salary before bonuses and then makes 33% bonus on top of that for what? For performance? All you talk about is how Canada Post is losing money. Why are you getting bonuses? Oh, and remember, he sits on the board of Purolator. So when you wonder where that $1 billion that Canada Post borrowed from the government went, it doesn't take scientific math to figure out that 2 and 2 is 4. It is time for the workers to stand up. We are supposedly building Canada first, Canada strong, while we are decimating jobs across this country. We do not care about the worker. Who the hell is going to build the economy when everybody has got no money? It is time. Every union out there needs to stand up. They need to stand in solidarity, because I am telling you, when they come for postal workers today, they are coming for you tomorrow.
So there you go, folks. Whoa! Oh, whoops. I don't know what I did there, but there you go. The first live show of the Silver Bullet podcast, and it was rough. It was rough, but we made it through it. And later today, while I'm going out to the line, I'm gonna, hopefully I can get some footage and all that stuff. But I'll be coming back live show. Oh well, tonight I'm supposed to go karaokeing in Silver Springs not every Friday, but a lot of the Fridays. I get together with some of my NDP pals, and we talk politics, have some pints, and sing karaoke at the Silver Point in Silver Springs. So, supposed to be tonight. I was going to try to see if I could get everyone to maybe come up to the line instead, but it's really hard to plan things at the very last second that big. So I'm supposed to karaoke tonight, so maybe that'll happen. If not, for sure tomorrow morning I will have a live show. So come on back. Thanks for watching the live Silver Bullet podcast. And I also forgot to play the theme song at the beginning here. Gosh, oh well. I'll get that next time. Huiho kako, see you.